Hello and welcome everybody to a Buy Around Beer, Footy and Food Festival special. We've got some great guests joining us here. Craig Gower, Billy Moore, but more importantly, the Beer Footy Food Festival, June 8th, 2025. Get around it. It is the June long weekend and the mighty North Sydney Bears are taking on the formidable Penrith Panthers at the historic North Sydney Oval. It's going to be an incredible day. Tickets are very well priced. We've got beer, we've got footy, we've got food. We've also maybe a little bit of wrestling as well. We all know what happened last time with that. I made my wrestling debut, but the less said, the better about that. Gents, great to have you both join us talking all things beer, footy and food. The Bears, close. They're going to be back. Are they back? Where are we at, Billy?
Where are we at? I'll be honest, I don't quite know. The fact that we're not dead yet is a really good sign. Look, I think you've got some powerful people involved in very serious discussions, and the fact that we're still alive is a good thing. The opportunity for us to go to Western Australia is not only good for myself and all the people involved with the Bears and the 220,000 supporters we've got, the game itself, especially for WA, for them to be re-engaged. If you remember, they had their own side. And they got kicked out in 97, we got kicked out in 99. So there's a bit of similarities there. But all of a sudden with WA in, you basically put the N back into the NRL, you're national. And it's the richest state in Australia. They're mad sports lovers. It will work. It'll be a juggernaut because you're going to marry up old with new. East Coast, West Coast. When you look at last year's AFL Grand Final, it was exactly that model. Sydney played Brisbane, but it was South Melbourne played Fitzroy, both juggernaut clubs. The Western Bears will be a juggernaut, and we will be, once inception happens, within 10 years, we'll be in the top 5 clubs in the league in all metrics. There you go.
Well mate, for me, as a bit of an outsider, learning about the history of the Bears, you go to Magic Round, you get around the city, you see games, you still see those Bears jerseys. So this maybe it's a win-win. We get these new fans in from WA, but we also get an invitation to those fans that maybe were a little bit off the game as well. With North Sydney being out, they are technically back in now as well.
Well, you re-engage 250,000, and we started a team. We started in 1908, kicked out in 1999. That's over a century of history and legacy. And it takes that long to create that feelers and roots out into the community, the passion and pride. So you can't make it. You can't buy it. Father Time's the only one who does that. So there's 250,000 ready to plug back in. And they want to plug back in as the Western Bears. They are dead set happy to do that. They're respectful of the fact they'll get a couple of games at home, but Live Stays plays in Perth. And we're going to welcome all of a sudden this whole new army of fans to our family. And when they come across the Nullarbor, they're not coming across as this side of who? They're coming across as Bears, and they instantly will pick up tens of thousands of people who hopefully will go to games at Parramatta, at Penrith, because they're waiting to be re-engaged. And when you've been sitting on the sidelines for 26 years, you're re-engaged on any terms.
Great, Jimmy. How are you? I certainly, you look at the Bears, and they've got the infrastructure there ready to go through reserve grade and already. So they've got players in waiting to sort of come through. And that's the biggest thing, is it's having those pathways where, if it is announced, I think they would be perfect to bring them in first and foremost before they bring in PNG, because of what the infrastructure here is already. And I know in WA as well, they've got a junior system over there as well. So certainly all roads sort of, if they can get it across the line, it's always just down to dollars and cents, really. If the government comes in and does it, well, hopefully that's the case.
In lieu of Gowie's point, very good, that they've been playing rugby league in WA for 75 years. They've got 6,000 juniors right now, and they have not had an NRL side for a quarter of a century already. And rugby union is strong over there. Obviously, AFL's number one. But as Gary said, the pathways are there ready to be plugged in on this side of the Nullarbor and that. And no one can offer me a position where you go, that's bad for the game on any level. So let's wait and see.
Is that 28? Is that 28? Is that
27? I think
27,
27,
and
is
then
it?
Papua New Guinea in 28. One thing potentially that could be bad for elements of the game or other clubs in the game is we've seen Penrith get the eyes picked out of them. Is there a fear that a strong club like Penrith and their junior production line, and Billy spoke about the pathway systems that are currently in existence over in Western Australia, which will likely come to fruition or see the fruits in 5 to 10 years' time? Is the worry that some of the current strong clubs are going to get, say the eyes picked out?
Well, it's already happening at Penrith. So, and now you've seen Gusky go into Canterbury, and they're putting the same structure in place about trying to bring kids through the junior system. We just need more of our clubs to be in that same boat where they need to produce more players, because if you're bringing in 2 more teams, then we will thin back then of players. So that's going to be the biggest challenge for us, is that keeping the competition as close as it is as we see it, because we're watching now, and I'm dead set throwing the dart at the board because I don't know who's going to win. It's just coming down that way. So
is that a good thing?
Not when you're on the punt, no. Not when you're on the punt. You look at it, you're just throwing stuff at the TV. But no, it certainly is, because it keeps every supporter base engaged, because you don't know what's happening, and that's exciting. So moving forward, I think the game really needs to put a lot of cash into that infrastructure stage, because as you see, halves are getting paid a squillion at the moment, and they probably don't deserve it. There's some players that don't sort of hit the mark, but they're getting top dollar at a crazy young age, and they still haven't achieved anything. So there's still a lot of work to do in that development stage.
I think it's great for the game that there's a huge level of unpredictability when you put on the Dragons v the Storm, and you're thinking, come on, we know it's Storm by how many? Even
how's the Dolphins? When has Melbourne been 16-2 up and then been dusted? I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that.
It doesn't happen. They don't surrender leads.
Yeah,
they conceded the next 7 tries to the point where Craig Bellamy burnt himself in the box, where he obviously was upset after try 1, 2, 3. By the time he got to try 6, you could just see he had nothing left in him. But also last weekend we saw Team 15 play 16. Roosters played Penrith. The last decade, those two, along with the Storm, have dominated everything. But you saw them down the bottom. It was still an intriguing game of football, but all of a sudden you've seen other sides have their chance and their moments to shine. And that's what I love about rugby league, is when you have this turnover of talent. Yes, when you expand, it is guaranteed you will have dilution. But it's our job as a game to fill that pipeline with rugby league talent, but also to look at our cousins, rugby union, and between the ages of 14 and 20, we need to look globally. New Zealand, South Africa. We need to start to have. You've played rugby in France. Yeah. You can't tell me between 14 and 20 there's not hundreds of young rugby union players in France that could over time move to rugby league.
Yeah, it's a difficult one in France because of just the way the structure is. Because soccer's number one, and then rugby unions. Yes, it is very strong, and then rugby league sort of sits under that, and you got Division 1 as well. But it's like anything, it just depends on how much money you got to be able to generate those kids. And when they're growing up, you look at the wages that the rugby union boys receive compared to the rugby league, that sways a lot of people in a way as well. So, I think the biggest thing for us is P&G. When P&G come in, and if they put the right pathways up in there and they get it done early, you'll see a lot of players come out of there. They've always been very hard-nosed, those players, but you need to try and produce guys that are halfbacks and ball playing positions.
Provide them coaching. I reckon one area that the Bears and PNG could go to in order to fulfill these playing rosters is the Super League. And with the injection of money, the salary cap just keep on going up, the financial struggles of a number of Super League clubs, we know that there's talent there. It could be.
Yeah, but does that ruin the game there?
Well, it could do.
Yeah.
It could do.
That sort of only works from the back in the old day when you used to, you'd play through winter, and then you go over and you'd have the big name players go over and play in the Super League, and But I don't think they'll ever change that.
You've got to cycle it as the players move out of their heydays in the Southern Hemisphere, that they go to the sister comp in the North a lot more than we have in the past. And I think while the Super League clubs are struggling, so is rugby union in Britain. So the opportunity there to grow and develop, if the minister did the right way. Last weekend, they had a record attendance across the 6 games in the British Super League, which is phenomenal to see. So the game over there can get stronger, but we're still seeing these great players, case in point, that have come out of that system. And we forget that game started over there, a decade before it did in Australia.
Yeah,
so
1985.
So the opportunity to grow and develop there, it does exist. So,
Sorry, 1895.
So we've just got to be smarter the way we do it and realise, there will be dilution, but be clever. I see PNG, they're going to allow every club to have 2 players that have come out of the PNG system off salary cap. So straight away you've got 34, hopefully soon 36 players that'll be diving in and play in the NRL because there's no impediment on the salary cap.
So I know Matty Adamson and Gary Hetherington bought London Broncos. So, and I was talking to Matt before he went over. He's obviously just gone over to start doing his job over there, and he was talking to clubs here and about trying to bring those younger guys that are trying to break through to go over there and to experience that level, because that's probably just underneath our NRL
it's
sort
that
of
intermediate
quality
between New South Wales Cup, Queensland Cup, and then RL.
That's right.
That's where,
so you're blood in there, where you're playing against those stronger teams, with a bit more skill. The hard-nosed guys that have played NRL here for a long time that have gone over there as well. It's just a great way to apply your craft to make you a better player, and then they can feed back in.
Yes.
So you just have
almost like a dual registration,
100%,
where you can be registered for one club over here and a club over there.
And then if you need to go, you just go back and forth.
I think it's a really, really positive idea that would benefit both competitions.
Yeah. Well, it brings those younger players on as well. I just think it's just at that time of their career where they're not battled hardened and. They ebb and flow. Well, they could, instead of going dropping back a couple of grades, they can go back over to the Super League and play a few weeks over there to sort of get them back into a bit of form, and then they can come back into the system. It's just another idea to sort of look at.
Boys, that's the serious stuff out the way. We're here at the Depot Brewery. Some great look at these fancy cans, like the mid-strength one there. These are all done with the Bears theme. You've got a multitude of options. Is the game going to sanitize? We know there's a level of professionalism, but the good old days, I know the 3 of us all enjoyed a couple of cold ones after a game, the day after a game, whatever it may be. Have we gone too far? Are the characters that brings team together slowly diluting out of the football teams? Sometimes
you think that, and then I actually was asked to put together my Queensland State of Origin team for 2025, and a guy called Reid Marnie. Now, is that guy whose character? So he's almost a throwback to our area a little bit. But so I think you find that there is a place for those guys. They are, just because of the level of sports science, just because of the level of professionalism that's wrapped around the game, they're not having other jobs. They're coming in and appearing at a high level. But I think deep down that there'll always be characters, and it's a different character what it was 2 decades ago, just like society's different to two decades ago. But I think we'll always have to keep some characters somewhere.
Yeah, certainly. I think Reed's been hanging out with Mick Innes, hasn't he?
Certainly looks that way.
2 sort of grubby blokes on the field. But, you're always going to have them. They'll be there. They'll be just in hiding a little bit, You don't want to sort of, just with camera phones and all the rest of it, the boys on social media, you're saying on the weekend, Taruva posted something that, to his mates and it all of a sudden gets out. So you just got to be careful, I suppose, with those boys.
Talk about the adjusting of the game. One semi-serious, but making a bit of fun of it, is the game becoming too fast? Which, in a sense, removes a certain type of player because you just can't carry them anymore.
Yeah, I understand where you're going with that, where it's you need to be the speedy, athletic type.
Well, I'm looking at the dogs.
But then that slows the game down, and because they're so good at their technique at wrestling and all that sort of stuff, I think there needs to be a change around the actual tackle technique, because you don't you don't get rewarded when you tackle low. You got to roll out.
And
And that's why you got 3 blokes tackling at one part, and all of a sudden somebody gets clipped because he moves half an inch and he's got one straight in the chin. So
how refreshing was it to watch last weekend the Warriors Bronx? Some of those tackles, Reece Walsh cut in half by Cable early on, and then Adam Reynolds
was
one of the best tackles I've ever seen. That was going back into our era.
Yeah.
So you're right. You need a reward. A one-on-one tackle should almost warrant, mate. You can't play the ball for another 2 seconds.
Well, let's change the game so it brings back the ability to go for a beer after a game. I reckon that's a huge incentive for young athletes in the making. Billy, you're enjoying one of these fine beers here, which will be available at the Beer Footy Food Festival. I'm thinking that Beer Footy Food Festival that's happening was probably a throwback to how things used to be. You'd play the game, you'd get in the players' bar after the game, you'd share a drink with the person that you've just gone to war with. Is that how it was back in the day here in Australia?
Well, when we were younger, the teams would stay. They'd go into the leagues club, and then you'd socialise that way. But that sort of went out a long time ago.
Everyone liked going to Penny Panthers.
Down to 8-1. Been there a few times. Surely there's going to be a Penrith one. Is he going to make a Penrith one up with those or what?
But when you look at the Beer Food Festival at North Sydney Oval, there is no more quintessential place to play rugby league than that ground on a Sunday afternoon. It'll be packed. The food will be great. The beers will be flowing. But when you look around that oval, that's the old SCG. All those stands got moved from the SCG to be there.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, the Bob stand that's there, that was old SCG. They pulled it apart and rebuilt it at North Sydney Oval. Yeah. But the whole thing just drips of tradition and history. But as you said, it's fun, it's footy, it's what it used to be like. And it's like a time capsule just sitting there.
So talk us through. You play a game at North Sydney Oval for the Bears, and you get in the change room. Yes, say, "Oh, coach, no," but you guys are hitting the pubs straight after.
Well, when I first started, I started playing before I was 18. It was in 1989. So there was no food in the change sheds. Blokes were smoking at half time still. The great Clayton Friend and those Gavin Jones were smoking at half time. And I looked at them. I hadn't turned 18. I was just going, that's the way it is, I suppose. And then year after year, they put a bit of fruit in. There was no one touching the first 2 years. I thought, I'm not touching that. Because everyone was afraid, thinking if you touch that food, you touch that fruit, you'll be tattooed as being too professional. You'd have the meat pie,
one of the health freaks.
Yeah, that's it. But North Sydney Oval is there's not a better place to play. And obviously our arch enemy Manly, we used to get ripping crowds. I remember there was one game, we had 23,000. We had them on the field. You never be able to do it now, but they actually because it's a cricket field, they barricaded it off and they allowed the kids to sit on the field. 23,000. Wow. And it's actually under lights. And one quick memory about that game, I remember playing it and Jason Taylor cut across the back of the ruck and he had Matty Sears and Michael Butte on the other side. That's where everyone thought it was going to go. But it was a play to open up the ruck, lazy defence, and I'd go through. And I thought, I opened up like Sydney Heads. I thought, hey, I'm in. And I'm very good at carrying on. I thought, I'm going to score here. This is going to be great. Then all of a sudden, it was like the lights went out. There's a big shadow come across. Ian Roberts read the play. The second biggest hit of that year was Ian Roberts hitting Billy Moore. I was horizontal to the ground.
Gary, what was it like for you as an opposition player to go there? Like, obviously, you played it, throughout your illustrious career, you've played in some magnificent stadiums, but that sort of retro feel, what was it like as an opposition?
I got to play there a couple of times. When I was in reserve grade, I played there, and I played one game in '96 against Billy, and that was my 9th first grade game. I went back and had a look at that. So
how'd you go?
Let's just talk about that. We got pumped, but we're playing off that week because we had to play Manly the week after, and we beat them, so it was all right. But just when you run out those old fields, it was always a fast track. Like through the middle, you had the cricket pitch and I got to play at the City Football Stadium too. And it's similar to that, but not on grand, but they're a lot closer to you, in that way. And but it's when you're playing against the Bear side back then, who were quite stacked in their team, and by the scoreline we got dusted 44-10. So it just shows you what sort of quality they had. And but it was, we didn't have a big crowd there. I think it was about 7,500, 8,000 sort of people, but just a wonderful to experience a field of that magnitude. Being in the game for so long. And
those suburban grounds and that home ground advantage. You think it'd make a difference because where everybody's trying to pull apart why Penrith haven't been able to replicate what they've done for the past 5 seasons. Is it just as obvious as they don't get to play at home anymore? And that's where this space for the suburban ground football can give a team a real advantage.
Oh, I think it can. And there's nothing better than a suburban ground when you only got 20,000, 25,000 people in there because they're jam-packed and it feels like they're on top of you. It's not like the big stadiums where you see open seats and you really feel that that intensity from the crowd when they're cheering for you, and especially when they're going against you as well. So, I seen the new footage of the Tigers with Leichhardt Oval getting done. So that'll be unreal for them boys. So. I think you still got to have it in some capacity. I understand, it's all about the dollars and they get a certain amount of cash from the government or from the stadiums to play there. But for me, as a player, I'd rather give that up to have that home ground advantage and having your supporters, sitting on top of you pretty much.
Billy, talk just the suburban ground feel versus the shiny new stadium.
That's a really good point. For me, the suburban ground. We looked like we were going to go the AFL model a while ago, and then they decided, I think it was under Valini's regime, they said, no, we're going to keep the suburban ground. I wasn't sure it was the right thing. It is. It is. It'd be great for us to have the big boutique games have to go like we saw on the Dogs game
on the Friday.
Good Friday. And I'll guarantee big crowds bring bigger crowds. But you can never move Manly away from Brookvale.
No.
You can never move. There has to be Leichhardt played at. Campbelltown's got to be played at. Parramatta State. So all those, the new shiny ones are good, but you've still got to have that suburban ground because that's our history. And that's where we come from.
Well, you've seen that with us, Jimmy. We're finding it hard to get people to travel to Parramatta.
Yeah.
And that's a cracking ground. That is an unbelievable ground to go there and watch the football from. But and like Manly, they'll never leave Brookvale to go into town to watch them play. They just won't get the crowds.
But the culture of sellout crowds, it's going to build. Our game, in my area, you talked about there's only about 8,000 when you play that game at North Sydney Oval. So we weren't used to having massive crowds, but now we're starting to. And I'm actually flying over to go and sit GA seats at the Warriors game. I've been calling a few of their games. I have never seen energy come through a screen that comes from that ground. I just want to go and immerse myself as a punter and sit in the GA seats. And I can't wait because that's what that sort of ground brings, that closeness. And that's what you grew up on in England.
Absolutely.
It
was...
Oh, that was cracking. Like playing in England was like one of the best experiences I've ever played. And you didn't have big crowds, but them singing, them spraying you, there's like... You're a fat bastard, and I didn't think I was too fat back then, but someone was. But it was just the way that they get behind their team, and I just love how if you grow up in that area, that's who you follow, mate. Here, where someone starts winning, and all of a sudden the kids want to follow them because they're winning.
I'm
different
with you,
mentality.
I'm over in the Shire, and the amount of Penrith Panthers jerseys I see, I think you parents, I blame the parents for allowing them to do it. But the suburban grounds, one of the things I always enjoyed is that level of almost abuse that you get from some of the punters. And I actually bumped into someone and they said, I remember spraying you at this particular ground, and you actually went over and clapped and gave me a thumbs up, because I reckon it's part of the I guess, like the relationship you have with the fans. And it seems to be more prevalent at those suburban grounds. We saw Jai Arrow, obviously, going back at the fan at that Good Friday game, but that's all part of it, isn't it?
Like, who cares? If the bloke sprayed him, why can't he ever go back at him?
Exactly.
As long as he doesn't hell abuse at him, but surely he can have a crack.
And there's no better one than, mate, just have a look at the scoreboard. spray me. But if we beat, but also when you get beaten and you lose, well, that's
You gotta cop it.
You're copping it. But that's what makes our sport great is when we don't get too sensitive around certain things. There's obviously a limit. There's no doubt there's a threshold. You can't cut through that part. But the suburban ground, hey, you're actually at my field now. You're on my turf. I like that.
Well, suburban ground, North Sydney Oval. We're going to be witnessing the North Sydney Bears taking on the Penrith Panthers. Beer Footy Food Festival. Tickets are available, beerfootyfood.com. But it's not just about that. It's not just about the game. We've got this festival atmosphere going on with food from all over the world, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But how good's this, right? We've got 3 mini matches before the main game. Latin Heat versus Vietnam in game 1. Game 2, the Philippines versus Africa United. And then game 3, Ukraine v Thailand. Here's some players that are technically eligible for each team. Now, I don't think we'll see any of these players actually represent these teams in question. Payne Haas and his brothers are eligible for the Philippines.
I think I'd take them. I'd take them. That'd make my Philippines roster.
God help Africa United with Payne Haas coming in. Jason Saab, part Nigerian, so he could represent Africa United. He would absolutely clean up. But what about this one? The game's best player.
You got Nathan Cleary, and then you put Jet Cleary at 5'8", then. Eh? Put his younger brother at 5'8". Not a bad halving.
I think it'd be a long afternoon for the Thai team. I really do. A long afternoon for the Thai team.
Do you know much about Jet?
I've only seen a little bit and heard. I think he just got out of that fishbowl of Penrith. Being behind his brother, and probably a good move for him to go over there and learn his craft and.
It's a great decision to leave the.
They showed some footage of him the other day. He played well, but it's like anything. You got to be consistent, and you just got to keep adding to your repertoire, and hopefully he can make his stamp. Certainly, having that added pressure on you, because your brother is who he is. It's just, and where it doesn't matter what he does on there, he's always going to be, compared to his brother, which is so unfair.
It is, but I guess it just comes with the territory when you've got such a father who was an amazing player as well. That we
even Joshy Stewart, the relation there through Beck Cleary's brother. So
it's funny. Imagine if one of the Warders, I played Steve, Kevin, just kept. You'd be filthy if
if you're no good.
Yeah. Well, I know Karen. He lost his Australian jersey to his brother. Be like, mate, you guys play a different position.
Come on.
Like, do you reckon there was a stink at home after that? You take my spot.
I reckon there'd be some wind-ups going on. Like you'd walk on down to Christmas dinner. Hey. Beer Footy Food Festival, like I say, those teams are going to be represented. We've got some great food in and around the surroundings of North Sydney Oval. I want to know where you two would be going to get your food from. So we've got Mexican, German, African, Filipino food, Vietnamese food, Ukrainian food, Japanese, Colombian. Where are we likely to find Craig Gower lining up there?
I'm going to line up the whole lot. Just go and taste test a lot. But no, Japanese sounds good for me. But first,
never had a bad Japanese meal. You're right.
No.
I'm going to start. Being a little bit of a restaurateur these days, we'll have courses. So we're going to start with the Mexican. Start with the Mexican.
Mexican appetizer.
Yeah, we're trying like a bit of heat, a little bit of chili, just to get the palate.
Or is this on entrance? Is this your
straight there?
So, because how many courses do you do at your restaurants?
Well, I'm going to have 4 courses.
You're going to have 4 courses.
Well,
okay.
If there's 4 games on, surely you can get a lot of them.
4. Okay, so we've got Mexican to begin with.
Have to do that. Look, you've got to probably finish with German because it's big and heavy. So I sort of want to.
Is that for the dessert or is that?
That's the big sausage, big sausage finish.
Yeah.
I think Gowie's Japanese could come in second because it's still
still light.
Probably sashimi sort of style.
Still
keeping some space.
Keeping some.
So and then look, I'm a bit of a Vietnamese freak. Had a great holiday in Vietnam. Vietnam, good for you.
What's your go-to Vietnamese?
Mate, I like the fried wok style food, with light, but the flavours Very, very lovely.
And
The key thing, it all goes with beer. Because I can tell you, when you finish with your German sausage, mate, German beer. Yeah. So that sort of...
I'm not going to muck around. I'm just going to go, I'm just going to go German beer, German food. No mucking around.
How do you go with chili? Do you go red?
I can tolerate it. I can tolerate it. It's one of those things that I think unnecessary. When you get these heroes that are like, oh, I can do this chili. I'm like, give yourself a pat on the back. or you don't even taste it. All you taste is the chili. It's like you're missing out on all these other excellent flavours. Nothing wrong with a bit of schnitzel and gravy. That'll do for me. Lager, German lager. Thanks for coming.
Once your chili level starts to make you cry and your nose water, you've gone too far.
It's gone too hard.
Yeah, you've got a little bit below that. But you always got to put it with this. A little bit of, keep it balanced.
A mate did me a good one once. Bought around a tray of shots, but one of those was a chili vodka and didn't tell me. And he's my best mate from school, and I was this close to like punching on, like because it ruined my night. It actually,
you can do it. Yeah, you can do.
I was in absolute all sorts. I was like ready to. It nearly dropped me, and I was about to drop him. But it's going to be a great afternoon, Beer Footy Food Festival. I'm going from an international flavour. The Kangaroos are back, heading over to the UK in I think it's like a 22-year first. What sort of memories does this invoke, those kangaroo tours? Gower, you went on one as was it 18, 19-year-old?
Well, the 97 one we went, and that was at the old Wembley where they had the dog track around there, and they had the old big ice bars in there, and
the actual bath in the change room.
Well,
you know what?
It was insane.
Did you ever play Odsal at Bradford?
Yes, I did.
They used to have the old school changing room, like there was showers, but it was a big bath, and Wembley was the same big bath.
Yeah, it was.
Mate,
that ground used to hold 110,000, didn't it?
I don't know if it was old Odsal.
Yes,
but yes, way back it did, but they modernised it and reduced the capacity. But what about bringing back the baths for like all these new grounds that get built? If Penrith Park in that 200 million. But
they got them all in there.
Regeneration.
They're all got the ice bars and stuff in there in the training facilities and stuff.
But it's a bit different. They were like a proper warm bath, dirty water. The Reggies had been in there before. That is the epitome of old school.
That's health and safety there for sure.
Yeah, but you played the old Wembley.
Yeah, I played the old Wembley. Yeah, before that got ripped down just after that. I think it was. But it was and that's not playing in that team with Laurie Daly and Bradley Clyde, Mullows with that fullback. I went to half. Steve Waters came into hooker because Alf just didn't want to go on tour that year. He just thought, I'm taking it off. But we had great time over there, and we had especially where we were staying in London, and just the nights out. You really got to enjoy yourself. Really,
Could you go under the radar a little bit as well? I suppose camera phones weren't really around then, but
I think over there you go under the radar anyway. Yeah. Especially even London. In London you do for sure, and then even in Leeds and that you do as well. Some of those nightclubs, 1,000 people in those nightclubs. You can hide in there for sure.
Kangaroos being back, how good is it?
I went on the 95 World Cup tour. So very similar to what Gowie's talking about, and I played a test in Gateshead, but I didn't play at Wembley, but I actually commentated.
Did you? Right.
Yeah, so I joined with Ray Hadley. He asked me to be the commentary, so I did that as well, which was a great experience. We'd much prefer to be playing, but I couldn't make the 17. But the Kangaroo Tour is paramount to what we sell ourselves. Because our rivals, aka AFL, they can't do that.
Yeah.
They fish in one pond, this one. We have to remember we're not global, but we are international, and we're seeing the rise of the Polynesian nations. New Zealand is good, England's good. We need to continue to grow the game, and that's how you do it. So I see that tour, the third test, Headingley sold out instantly. The second test is Everton's new ground. It's sold out.
It's close to being sold out, I believe, yeah.
And then it'd be great to see. Imagine if Wembley sells out as well, and that Pommy side is going to be good. You got I'll argue. I love him, but you think about the best centre in the world, Herbie Farnworth and Stephen Crichton are the best two centres. Herbie Farnworth makes my team every day of the week and twice on Sundays. That's the sort of player that is going to represent England. It's going to be great to see, and it's going to be competitive.
Yeah, it sure is. The Ashes series is back. It's going to be great stuff. But before that, 8th of June, 2025, the long weekend, the Beer Footy Food Festival, the North Sydney Bears taking on the Penrith Panthers, and it's so much more than the game. We've got those 3 mini matches, but great craft beer, amazing food. I hope you get along. I've been there as a punter. I've been there working. It's an absolutely brilliant, family-orientated day. Have some beers, enjoy some food, and enjoy the footy. Billy Moore, Craig Gower, thanks for joining us here on the Buy Round.